harvesting. This has been there from close to 1.5 decades. We have a patent on this. We assisted the state government in drafting the RWH policy and guidelines. We continuously doing the same. And recently we have started the enforcing as well. And apart from that, we provide detailed project reports for government and private institutions. It's been going on for more than a decade. And right now, because of our efforts, you can see that more than 1.6 lakh houses in Bangalore have adopted RWH. And due to our strict enforcement with BWSSP, you could see that more than 60,000 houses have been penalized for not implementing it. Then we have a few more programs like Digital Heritage, wherein we map all the archaeological sites of both state and central government, which generally used for reconstruction and restoration as well as virtual walkthrough. Then we have surface water bodies. We map surface water bodies close to 14,000 in the state. We visited each and every place, and apart from location, we have the information of the status of these tanks and also the possible restoration measures. And fortunately, based on this report interventions, the government of Karnataka, under several programs with state and central funding, they have implemented through Jal Shakti Abhiyan and Narega programs as well. So we have the energy cell, which basically looks into bioenergy. This is the vision of the present government as well. So according to the National Biofuel Policy, I think we are working with the State Biodiversity Board in adopting new technologies, especially first generation, second and third generation of bioethanol. This is going on right now. And we have also published a report which gives you information for the investors to invest in bioenergy startups in Karnataka. We have another program, housing, which mainly deals in alternate and energy efficient building technologies. This has been close to more than 4 decades, and we continuously update the technologies. We continuously come up with alternative and energy efficient technologies. So far, we have more than 20 alternate walling and roofing elements, and this is quite a success for us because more than 20,000 houses has been built using this technology in Bangalore alone. Apart from that, we have many more Center of Excellence for Cyber Security, which is operating in the council. Right now, apart from that, we have the Center of Excellence in Aerospace and Defense as well, which basically trains graduates and postgraduates engineering students on aircraft and aerospace technologies. Then we have a vibrant patent information center, which actually provides, promotes, protects, and commercializes IPR for inventors and creators. Mainly, we work with the academic institutions. We have established more than 40 IP cells in the state of Karnataka. We hope to establish at least 200 by the end of 2023, so that every institution will have an IPR cell and students and faculty will be encouraged to file patents. So far, we have helped about filing 80 patents, and we have I think supported a number of prayer art search for that. And coming back to this today's topic of use of technologies for social science research. This we have taken up under the SCST cell, which has been established recently with the support of Department of Science and Technology, Government of India. Initially, the philosophy of establishing SCST cell is like this: to promote adaptation of appropriate and relevant technologies for socio-economic development of target population, aiming at skill development, sustainable livelihoods, and enhancing of quality of life. But this is all right, this statement is good, but how do we going to address all these things? So we started now we have started mapping district-wise, taluka-wise population, demographies of HCST population, the kind of labor force they have in each, and we have up to the information at the Gram Panchayat level. And we have the natural resources, we have the industrial resources mapped at the taluka level. So once we have all these resources, manpower, the kind of labor force that's being used in different areas, then tactically we can fit the skills promotion appropriately for a different districts and talukas. Otherwise, what happens is recently we worked with one of the NGOs which is having a uh, good support in Madikeri. They trained the marginalized community for 7 days in beekeeping. So, looking at that, person from a Kolar NGO also came up and said that we would like to have a similar workshop or training in Kolar. We said, see, we have no bees there. I think it's Kolar is mostly dry area. And how do you get into this beekeeping? It's impossible. So that's why we have to slot the technologies appropriately, for which we need the complete database as of now. So without database, without proper statistics, without especially database with reference to the geospatial thing, it's very difficult to uh, identify appropriate and relevant technologies for specific needs of the specific population of the different agroclimatic zones of Karnataka. So the first job we are trying to do is map everything. Mapping everything is demographies, industrial force, labor force, then agricultural labor force, the number of skilled laborers. These are all available in the 2011 census. It's also getting updated from the state government thing. Using all that, we would like to have technologies which is rightly fitted to that place. Hopefully, we'll be able to bring out an application or an app, what we call as a digital app, wherein if you click a place, it will provide you all the details like the number of people employed in different sectors and also the kind of natural resources that have, cropping pattern, the type of crops that's grown, and what is the shortfall in different areas. This is very much essential because otherwise, in a government parlance, what happens is if I do something right in some place, they just replicate in all the 30 districts without even bothering whether it really means anything to the people living in other districts. Like when you apply for a, because I did that application for a visa during my college days, wherein in Australian thing embassy, it simply says the number of openings in a different sector. So we thought that being engineers will get a preference, but my friends who were there nearby have an expertise in CNC machine operation. They got the visa much ahead of us because that was the requirement for that country at that point of time. So we need to create that kind of a database so that appropriate technologies can be imparted to them. Skills also could be rightly imparted to them so that the forward linkage and the marketing strategy could be really well established so that the effort of our CST cell will be much more meaningful. So in that uh, connection, fortunately, we discussed with Dr. Chandrasekhar from National Law School. He showed a lot of interest in conducting this kind of a workshops and seminars. And this is the beginning. This is the beginning is we started with the webinar, but most likely would like to do more of a offline content because this specific thing is use of technologies for social science research, and mostly the speakers during this week-long program is going to talk about technologies which is relevant for the PhD scholars being participating today. Hopefully, we have many such things, and I will also be speaking on geospatial technology use of it. Uh, I believe that at the end of this week-long webinar, students will be energized to use more of technologies for the research, and I hope they receive the best of inputs during this workshop. And I thank Dr. Chandrasekhar and National Law School for collaborating with us in taking these SNT cell vision and mission forward. And we would like to continue to work together for a much longer time. Thank you very much. I'll end now. I request Dr. Chandrasekhar to take over, please.
Thank you, sir. Your support and more collaborations we need. We travel together. The use of social science technology for social science researchers and even community empowerment, economic development mode. Thanks for your collaboration and your support. Now I request to Professor Jaffet sir deliver the inaugural address. Jaffet sir is advisor and founder, Marginalized Community Center, Center for Social Exclusion Policy Studies in National Law School. Sir, now I request. you to deliver inaugural.
Good morning, everyone. Professor Hemant Kumar, Executive Secretary, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Science. My great friend, in fact, I've come to listen to Professor Shambabu's keynote address. It's a great honor to have you, Professor, with us delivering a keynote address. We have been friends and colleagues for almost 3 decades now. And he has immensely worked on areas which are very relevant for this 7-day workshop. Professor Ashok Raichur, Secretary, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Science. My colleague, of course, it's a great loss for us that Professor Pradeep is not with us presently at National Law School. He has joined Tata Institute of Social Sciences in Guwahati. And Professor Chandrasekhar, my colleague here, coordinator of Tala Samudayagala Dhyana Kendra. Mr. Gangadharappa, project engineer, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology. And my dear participants, it gives me immense pleasure to participate and inaugurate this very important 7-day workshop, which is organized by premier institute, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, in collaboration with Tala Samudayagala Dhyana Kendra of Center for Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy and National Law School of India University. Let me at the very outset congratulate Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology for coming forward and organizing this very unique program. And listening to Professor Hemant's impressive account of what it has been doing in various fields for the benefit of our state and the people, I must say that we have come together very late. Probably we should have joined hands much earlier to do a lot of things. Of course, Tala Samudayagala Dhyana Kendra, which is something very special and unique. Of course, it is also part of Center for the Study of Social Exclusion and Inclusive Policy, which is a UGC-sponsored organization. We have about 33 such institutes, programs, centers all over India, and law school probably is one of those which has a lot of credibility, particularly Tala Samudayagala Dhyana Kendra focusing on the marginalized communities in Karnataka. We have undertaken, of course, during my absence, I was away for 4.5 years as founding Vice Chancellor of Bengaluru City University, during which time Professor Pradeep and Chandrasekhar have done a lot of work, both in terms of research and community-based work. Probably later on, when Chandrasekhar speaks, he could probably share some of what we have done and their experiences. Friends, as I said, it's a very unique program. And I'm glad that I believe there is a lot of response from all over India, from young scholars who want to be part of this workshop. And as Professor Hemant Kumar said, that's just a beginning. And I'm sure there will be many young scholars who would want to be part of this workshop. As Professor Hemant Kumar said, it can't be just online, it has to be offline, where they have to be exposed to various technologies. And I'm sure there's no dearth of resources for them. And we will be very happy to collaborate with them in future. Let me be very brief because we would like to give more time to our great friend who is an expert in this area, Professor Sham Babu. Uh, so let me be very brief and maybe um, what I just a brief a note that I have brought together. Over the last decade, more people have understood the importance of social science and how it has changed dramatically with the advances in technology, data science, and the onset of the pandemic. While each of these have helped social scientists, they also come with their own biases and challenges. Data has huge power to inform social scientists, influence government, as Professor Hemant Kumar shared. It can influence government, empower think tanks to build better policies that enable change for the better in societies. But what I worry is that when it comes to data scientists, the prioritization of science and technology over humanities and social sciences. Scientific and technological innovations are necessary, but enabling them to make an impact requires an understanding of how people adapt and change their behavior. That will probably require new narratives, the purview of rhetoric, literature, philosophy, and even theology, I must say. We must make sure we tap into these expertise or we will fail to tackle the challenges of the upcoming decade. Why do I say that? From the pandemic, you will agree with me that we have learned that healthcare cannot be improved just by taking a narrow medical view, as today it has both a social as well as a biological phenomena. As much as vaccines were required, social distancing, which is a very wrong terminology that is being used, it is a physical distancing. It cannot be social. It has other connotations. And wearing of mask are also needed. But the one area that we will still fail to address is the treatments for mental health, which has not made sufficient progress. Getting over the pandemic will depend in part on a better understanding of how social context influences whether treatment succeeds or not. In both the above aspects, governments have learned that technology has a very important role to play beyond just data gathering and analysis or even managing delivery processes. The pandemic has changed the way people view technology, as over the last 20 months, people have lived with their devices more than their families. Today, everything, groceries, medicines, teaching, or even doctor consultations are available on your fingertips, and businesses are forced to understanding of the customer as a full-fledged human. Cognizant, a leading IT company in India, as parts of its insight to code approach, behavioral scientists and developers work side by side through an interactive process to ensure products are built to specification, and they review customer reactions to tweak products as needed. Specific in these pandemic times, a communication service provider enlisted cognizant selves. I'm sure Professor Hemant is aware of this, in coming up with ideas for services that could be made available on an enhanced Wi-Fi router. From observations in households across the country, they found that families have little understanding of how to manage their internet connections, tend to abandon new smart devices that seem to be too complex, and feel cut off by family members distracted by their devices. Cognizance developers worked with behavioral scientists as well as service provider to build these products, three products. One that allows families to agree on internet usage terms and enforce them through the router. Another that helps parents to keep track of children's smartphone use. And a third that enables easy connectivity between smart devices. When behavioral research works hand in hand with technological development, businesses can make the right investments, work efficiently, and remain competitive in the digital economy. By taking what I mean to say is that by taking human needs into account, these companies can create technologies that change the day-to-day world. As Indian Institute of Science and Technology, Institute of Science and Technology has done over the last several decades now. Friends, I do not want to take more time. What I want to say here is that I must congratulate that the organizers have designed and structured this 7-day workshop so beautifully. And our participants, I'm sure, will be exposed to various aspects of this particular topic. And I'm sure that it will enhance their potential, facilitate quality research, and also decision making. And I'm glad there'll be more and more students. And of course, by taking their feedback, we should be able to design this workshop much more efficiently so that it will be useful. Now, having said this, let me once again thank the organizers for inviting me to be part of this workshop, particularly at the inaugural session. And I would like to thank our friend Professor Sham Babu for agreeing to be here and delivering keynote address. Thank you, everyone, Professor Raichu, Professor Hemant, and all of you. And I wish this workshop a great success. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your brief introduction, inaugural address.
Thank you very much.
Now I would request Sham Babu sir. We asked last 4 days back short notice. He accepted and he presented a 10:15 itself. That's why now I would request Sham Babu sir to keynote address. Sham Babu sir.
Unmute partner.
Sorry. Good morning, dear friends. Professor Hemant Kumar, my good friend Professor Jafex, Professor Ashok Raichur, my friend Pradeep, Dr. Chandrasekhar, Professor Gangadharappa, and the team. Thank you very much for this invitation, and I congratulate Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology at the Indian Institute of Science and Tahala Samudayagala Adhyayana Kendra at NLS for organizing this important workshop. I hope you are committed to the larger cause of technology in social sciences, and this workshop is but a small part of it. And you know, all good things start in Karnataka. You have started this. I am sure other states will follow your example in unpacking this topic, technology for social science scholars, how we can improve our social science research, and especially from the viewpoint of marginalized communities and scholars belonging to scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities. And first of all, you don't need to take any notes, as I have circulated a 2-page outline of my address. One doesn't have to spend any time to stress the importance of technology, not only in our everyday life, but in our professional life as well. Just this weekend, it happened to me. A technician came to fix my 10-year-old washing machine. I thought I might have to replace it sooner because 10 years old. So I asked him about the new models and prices and what are the new features. He told me that the new washing machines are coming with a Wi-Fi. What does Wi-Fi do in a washing machine? The company can directly access a machine for diagnostics and update software. So very soon, I don't need to call their service center for repairs. They would remotely access my machine and warn me what's wrong with it, and they would know which part would need replacing. So hereafter, it is my imagination and their imagination on the possibility. My point is, we cannot run away from technology. So therefore, I'm here to share my views on the need for social science scholars to equip themselves with latest technical tools, especially ICT, to be more productive and relevant. Whenever I get an invitations, if it is for a subject presentation, I may accept or may not accept depending upon my workload. But if it is to interact with young scholars, I never let go of an opportunity. That's why even though I was invited just on Saturday, I immediately grabbed it. I go around teaching Zotero in these kind of workshops because I enjoy encouraging and equipping young scholars. So in this workshop, you will learn about some important tools like SPSS, Zotero, etc. So I won't talk about them. I will focus on a typical researcher. Someone like me, I come from a lower income household in a small coastal Andhra town. For my generation, it mattered most where one was born, one's caste, class, etc. They still matter. Here I speak within a narrow context. We all belong to one class with all the differences. Nowadays, a decent computer with broadband is that giant bridge that presents us with a modicum of level playing field. Now, my outline is this. In the main, I present 4 reasons why a scholar must be proficient about technical tools being used in his field and by his peers. Point number 1, technology is a morale booster. 2, technology works as a force multiplier. Technology enables collaboration. Technology validates or invalidates our research. In place of a conclusion, I will present 3 caveats and make 4 suggestions. So there we go. Technology is a morale booster. We are a stratified society, and every society is, but we are too complex. Think of Dr. Ambedkar's concept of graded inequality. It's not just black and white. The kinds of granular inequalities and discriminations we encounter every day and its effect on us. Then what do I mean technology is a morale booster? Does technology cancel out the effects of discrimination and inequality? Of course, no. As I mentioned, I'm talking in a narrow context. For a researcher, say in sociology or economics, it is important that she uses the same methods and technology as anybody else in her field. You see, it is essential for her standing or what she thinks of her standing. I am talking about morale. It is not tangible, but vital. The latest iMac is wonderful, but costly. But a 5-year-old PC with Linux operating system performs almost all functions of an iMac. I'm not naive here. I use an iMac, I use Windows, I use Linux and iMac. I don't mean I use all of them every day, but I use them. So whatever I'm saying here is out of my own experience. Similarly, forget about, say, SPSS, which is a costly proprietary software. You can find an open source alternative not only to SPSS, but to many costly programs. Inequalities are real, but you can mitigate them provided you have the agency. I mean, provided you think you have the agency. That is morale booster. My second point, technology works as a force multiplier. I'm deliberately using a military concept here. 5 centuries ago, 10 soldiers wielding long guns known as muskets could hold against 100 enemy soldiers. That's the nature of technology. For years, I have been teaching Zotero to young researchers like you. I follow the workshop model and I take anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours. When we are young, we spent a lot of time hopping from one library to the other, filling out index cards, occasionally photocopying articles. I would write the chapter longhand, insert references manually. If I wasn't sure of a page number or a spelling, I had to visit the library. Now Zotero does all these in a few minutes. It does more. For example, through your JSTOR account, you downloaded an article. You forgot about that. But the journal in which that article came carries a correction to that journal article. Or it is completely retracted because they found several problems with that. And your Zotero automatically updates that information. It is as if you have a couple of research assistants on your payroll. That's why I call Zotero the digital research assistant. These technologies are also user-friendly. A highly complex program like SPSS can be mastered by most scholars. In fact, we may need to master a fraction of any software as we don't need to use all of its features. Therefore, find out the core technologies your peers are using. Get acquainted with them or with their open source alternatives. You will be more efficient, more productive, and you will be valued more in the job market. Thirdly, technology enables collaboration. Technology, like language, unites if you have mastered it or divides if you haven't. Let's say you agree to collaborate with 2 scholars on a research project. One is in Kenya and the other in Norway. You all can share your Zotero folders related to the project, and all 3 of you are on the same page on the material available. A word processing program like Pages in Mac and iOS allows real-time collaboration across the globe. On one side of your computer screen, you all 3 can discuss over Zoom. On the other side, you can do writing and revising the paper together in the real time. In a mega research project involving several countries, you can become a part if you agree on the methods, techniques, tools, and what have you. It doesn't mean you must know every piece of software being used in your field across the globe. Despite the divergent nature of these technologies, there is sufficient standardization. For example, most word processing programs like Microsoft Word, WordPerfect, LibreOffice, Pages look alike because they all trace their ancestry back to Star Office in the 1960s and 70s. If you know one class of program, you would be able to handle many programs within that class. So acquire core competence in any OS, in any word processing program, in any statistical program, so on and so forth. You will be able to easily collaborate, connect with your fellow scholars anywhere on the planet. And technology validates, invalidates research. In research, what we value most is peer review and acceptance. That's how you get invited to seminars and conferences. That's how you would be hired. To convince your fellow scholars in your field, you must carry out your work the way everyone does. Here, the point is not so much about technology, but methods and materials, and locating your work within the bounds of your domain. In a way, all these points are building blocks of your work. Each piece may look small or not too important, but together they are critical for your success. Sometimes technology comes handy to test our everyday assumptions, guesses, hunches. It so happened about 15 years ago. I'm from political science. One day, I told a young economist colleague of mine that unlike popular conceptions, well-off Dalits are subjected to intimidation and violence, not the poorest of the poor. When Dalits are poor and subsist on the mercy and goodwill of dominant groups, there is hardly any need to insist on one group's dominance or the other's subordination. Then how to prove it? We collected data from National Crime Records Bureau, that is the district-wise atrocities data. We added census data for district-wise literacy. We also took into account the proportion of Dalits in agriculture, etc. The regression analysis we did on SPSS indicated correlation between upward mobility and increased number of atrocities on them. It is just a blip in the ongoing research. Others may refine it or invalidate it. But you need technology backed by techniques and methods to validate your research. These are the 4 points I would give in defense of technology in social sciences. But I have 3 caveats. One, in social sciences especially, method is not the message. It should not be. William Ginser famously said that computers make good writers better and bad writers worse. That's true of all technology. Each one of us must ask ourselves the honest question: am I at a point to benefit from new technologies like IMAC or SPSS? I have seen many scholars who are proficient in certain methods and use them just because they can. Your larger vision and your research challenges must inform your decisions on methods and techniques, not the other way around. Why do we still read Aristotle, Plato, or J.S. Mill, Dr. Ambedkar? None of them used any methodologies we now use in social sciences, but they employed the power of human observation, the power of language, the power of description and narration and common sense. These remain our precious tools. Technology and techniques are to help our faculties, not to substitute them. Einstein defined branches of knowledge into objective world, that is biology, physics, chemistry, and subjective world, politics, sociology, etc. In objective world, what happens is you can measure things, you can weigh them, and you can report. But in subjective world, when you deal with human beings, their opinions, their culture, their emotions, there are not easy measurements. It is like in the story of 6 blind men and the elephant. For one blind man, elephant means a wall. Another argues that elephant is just a tree tongue. The moral of that story is that each of those 6 was right, but collectively they were wrong. In social sciences, I'm sad to say, each one of us like a blind man. But don't be offended, I'm using it as a metaphor. Come to think of using metaphors and not using adverbs, which leads me to my second caveat. All the methods, technologies, and hardware are useless if a social science scholar is not proficient in his language of communication. that is, in our case, English. For most of us, I am included, it's a daily struggle to refine, upgrade our English proficiency. That journey never ceases. Masters in our field are all masters of nonfiction. And my third caveat is that in addition to language fluency, one must acquire domain expertise. What's the use of language if one is not a master of his subject? If one is tentative about one's language, one cannot communicate. If one is not sure of his language, not sure of one's domain expertise, what is the use of technology? I have 4 brief suggestions to the organizers. Thank you for organizing this wonderful workshop. It's a very good beginning. As I said that I'm sure other states will follow your example. My suggestions are this. One, next time you conduct a workshop like this, please add a session on how one can make use of open source operating systems like Linux, software. There is an open source alternative to every important program. Don't be mesmerized by the bells and whistles of commercial programs. More often you can do without. So we need a session on open source resources. My suggestion number 2, please have a session on programs that help qualitative research, the bread and butter of social science research. When you talk about technologies, software packages, more often they promote quantitative research. I'm not against that, but we need a balance. We also must focus on qualitative research and the resources that help it, like nvivo, which is a kind of software program that helps in qualitative research. Look for open source alternatives for this. My third suggestion is have a session on data visualization. It is emerging as a major field. Fourthly, there are free and paid online resources to upgrade one's skills. The ready examples is MOOCs like edX, Coursera, or Masterclass, and what have you. I haven't even touched resources like the Project Gutenberg, Internet Archives, and recently I think IIT Kharagpur opened a website which gives most Indian social science resources in one place. This is a kind of expanding knowledge. Whenever we have workshops of this nature, it is good to update the students' knowledge of them. And having sessions on these 4 areas is vital. So that's it. I would love to cover in Q&A what I missed in my address. Once again, my congratulations to the organizers, and thank you very much for inviting me.
Thank you, sir. We will incorporate next workshops, your good suggestions. We are also in the trial mode. This is the experiment basis we started. I and Pradeep discussed, and then Hemant sir, I will discuss with Hemant sir. Hemant sir is accepted. We are starting it. So technologies for social science will go together in a long way. It is. Thank you once again, sir. Now I request Ashok M. Raju sir to presidential address.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Good morning, everyone. First of all, welcome to this, the first workshop, I think, being conducted under this new program we have set up under KCST. And Mr. Hemant Kumar is a driving force behind this. A lot of hard work went into getting the funding and other things being set up. And so we are now, we have a full-fledged, let's say, a SCST cell, as we call it. And under that, we are now starting our various programs, and this one being the first one. First of all, let me thank the various speakers for this morning. Professor Japhet for his inaugural address, and he was able to highlight the uniqueness of this program. And he also did mention that we should have collaborated much earlier to take such kind of initiatives forward. That's a very valuable remark. But nevertheless, better late than never. So we are there, and we should collaborate and move forward on these issues, on these programs to make a big success. I would also like to thank Mr. Shyam Babu, for his insights into the use of software technology, especially, and in particular softwares, and his remarks about using the open source resources is a very valid one, and I think it will go a long way in solving, in helping us to move forward and in solving many of the issues. I would also like to touch upon some of the our objectives or the action plans in terms of the center itself. And what we plan to do is to collaborate with universities, urban, rural, local bodies, and NGOs, and several groups that are supported by TST. And we would like to, so that we would be able to deliver, some of the products and services for inclusive social and economic development of the SC/ST population. That's one of the larger action plans. And we would also like to do some kind of survey, get all the and also get all the Indian researchers and labs to be involved in this. The third objective, which we have already started now, creation of skill building centers on sustainable technologies to train and upskill these communities. And I think for this, if I'm right, Yadgir district has been chosen, and we are already in the process of setting it up there, a skill building center. And then interaction with R&D centers for fine tuning and upscaling product and services relevant and appropriate to these communities. So these are some of the larger action plans that are there. And I think workshops, interaction with experts will probably be one of the most important aspects of this program. And in that sense, today is an important day where we start this first workshop, which will go on for the next week. And from KSCST, I would like to extend all the help, anything that is needed, even in the future as we go on, as we frame new programs and new initiatives. I would like to welcome all of the experts to come and interact with us. And we would be glad to extend any help from the state government side to making these programs successful. And I think with those few remarks, I would like to once again welcome all of you to this webinar. And I wish you all success to both the speakers as well as the participants. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Your valuable presidential address. We are ready for more collaborations and more creative plans. We'll see the journey. And now I request Gangadharappa to vote of thanks. Gangadharappa, sir.
Sir, I am audible?
Yes, yes.
Good morning, everyone and all. Present here, Honorable Chief Guest, Professor Jaffet S., former founder, Vice Chancellor, Bangalore University. Professor D. Shyam Babu, Senior Fellow, Center of Policy Research, New Delhi, and Professor Ashok M. Raichur, Secretary, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, Indian Institute of Science, and Dr. Pradeep Ramawat, Associate Professor, Tata Institute of Social Science, Guwahati, and also Sri H. Hemant Kumar, Executive Secretary, Karnataka State Council for Science and Technology, and Dr. Chandrasekhar R.V., Associate Professor, Talasamudaya Adhyayana Kendra, National Law School of India University, and all the participants. It is such an honor for me to get the opportunity to thank you all dignitaries on behalf of KCST and National Law School of University. Thank you all. Thank you all for your time today. Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Gangadharappa. Now I
Thank you, sir.
request Pradeep Ramawat sir, this inauguration program ends here. Now we'll start first session. Dr. Pradeep Ramawat, Associate Professor, Tata Institute of Social Science, Guwahati. Now I request Pradeep Ramawat sir to start the session. Sir, unmute please.
Would you like to propose a 2-3 minutes break for the participants so that they are fresh for the next session, because we are continuing for almost for an hour and so, and the next session will continue for 1.5 hour kind of thing. So would you propose a break for 2-3 minutes?
Okay, sir.
Yeah, we can come back at say 11:40 so that we can start at 11:40. That is okay with everyone.
Shamu.
Met each other.
4 minutes break. We'll start after 4 minutes.
I am back as a
Pradeep sir, shall we start?
Yes, we can start. Thank you. Good morning and then welcome to this program on technologies for social science research. I think I have been chosen very deliberately to start the open session because in the entire group, I might be the person like who has been at a very disadvantage of technology because it has been very deliberate that I will pick up this session because this deliberate attempt was being done in order to ask the questions from the participants so that we navigate this workshop through a collaborative mode. Because we firmly have this belief that this workshop will be a collaborative one, and then participants also need to contribute for the entire design of the workshop. Thereby, we can also like indicate and suggest what kind of tools, techniques, and then what kind of methods we can incorporate in our research, future research which we take up. I think that the inspiration for the entire design of such program came into a situation where we were undergoing a lot of we were taking up a lot of crisis kind of situation. I recall when COVID hit the entire humanity. I think marginalized groups, particularly those groups who are nomadic, semi-nomadic, and people like who are basically involved in subhuman kind of livelihoods, particularly manual scavenging communities and power karmikas were the people like who were hit the most during this entire crisis. During that entire situation, one of the things which bothered me, Chandrasekhar, and fellow friends were how do we reach out to these communities? Because like these are the communities through which like we were conducting research and we were reaching out to these communities at different parts in Karnataka. So that was a greater crisis we were all coming across. I think that was a situation when most of us, including many of us, like were part of the university system, are not very familiar with this whole technology ecosystem. The way in which like we are using Zoom software at this point in time, I think we were not comfortable at that point in time. Maybe a year or 2 years later, before we were not very comfortable. For some of us, it's a very new kind of thing because many of us went to the field. We used to travel a longer distance if we want to reach out to those communities and then wanted to meet those people. Because that's the way like we designed our research. That so people's participation at the community level, we reach out to the communities and groups in the villages and habitations wherever they are. So I think exactly a year back when Dr. Chandrasekhar proposed that we can't take this excuse of saying that we are not well versed with technology, so that our research will not continue. Our consultations, our research has to happen at any cost, and I think technology should act as a great enabler. That was the inspiration for us to visualize for methodologies like which will be designed in order to reach the communities in the communities, particularly most vulnerable groups. I think a year back when Chandrasekhar proposed that like we should have the consultation of the. Is there any problem with the voice?
There seems to be an echo, it seems.
Is it fine, Bhaskar, now?
Yes, now fine.
Yeah, now it's
I think because I was very close to the mic, it seems, because of that. Okay, why I'm telling this particular instance was, I think we started using the technology exactly a year back, the way in which we have not used the technology so proficiently. To hold the consultations, to gather the opinions, to understand the lived life experiences of these communities, particularly during the COVID situation. Many of the scholars, many of the professors at the university spaces, like who I should say the people like who are stalwarts and leaders in social sciences, also demotivated us and discouraged us, saying that we don't have that kind of penetration, particularly in terms of technology. Like when you are planning to reach out to the most marginalized groups, particularly nomadic communities and demotivated groups and other community people like who are in the very interior habitations. But I think, as usual, Dr. Chandrasekhar took this challenge for organizing the first webinar to take out the situation of understanding the the situation of nomadic communities and denotified tribes. And surprisingly, to our great surprise, many of the communities started coming forward and participating through their leadership at different level. And I think now, I feel like personally, I'm very happy that people from these groups, particularly nomadic communities, denotified communities, mothers of Devdasi children, and these are the people like who are now using this kind of technology very effectively, particularly to articulate their problems and challenges. One hand, we also hear this story that technology is a great divider. On the other hand, we are also seeing that technology is helping us to reach out to these most marginalized groups. These are the interesting narratives. There's one more inspiration which came to us on this entire process was Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar. When everyone in the education system was saying that we will not be able to access the communities and then give the required online education mode, Dr. R.S. Praveen Kumar was telling us very constantly that you should organize for community learning centers so that you use technology very effectively. So why I'm telling all these things are, this is the kind of crisis we underwent because like our research was more into policy space, and then we were undertaking this research as a policy action research, reaching out to the communities, and then we're collecting those information and data in order to present it in front of the government and different levels of the governance system so that we will be able to convince the government about the problems faced by these groups so that these articulations are being registered. Because as Professor Jaffet sir rightly pointed out, it's not social distancing, because social distancing does not help us in understanding this larger notion under which like, we are interacting on an everyday basis. So it was a physical distancing, we all agreed, and then it was never been a social distancing for us. Like we all connected on an everyday basis. Like we spoke to the community members, and then they spoke to us. I think that has been a life-changing experience for many of us, like who are part of these research programs and then research activities in these research institutions. I think having said that, let me go a little historical in understanding why technology plays an important role in understanding this whole area of social sciences, and then also what are the other larger motivations for us, like when we are looking at how technologies can help us, particularly in hello?
So very sorry to interrupt you. I think there seems to be echo issue. People are putting it out on chat. So if there is a window or something in the room, if you could open, and I think then it will be fine.
Give me a minute, Pascal, I'll just correct it.
Yeah, sure.
Just give me a minute.
Yes. Sorry for interrupting. Yeah, okay.
Hope it will be all right now. Bhaskar, are you able to see the slides which I am sharing?
It's coming up now, sir. It's coming up.
Okay. Thank you. I have tried to close the doors and the other windows which were open over here. Let me try it out now. See, one of the greater challenges that we are having at this point in time is the way in which we are framing the issues, particularly using technologies, particularly for social science research. And how these power structures come and interact in whenever like you plan for any kind of social science research, power is a very important element to be considered. Here we are talking about the power like which is coming to us through these technological means. As some of the speakers earlier said, that how do we make sure that the technology becomes more flat and then it is accessible to these marginalized groups? That is the focus of it. because we work in this public policy space, and then our work is more into social justice and then public policy, how they interact and kind of thing. One of the great trouble we are all having at this point in time is the emergence of big multinational companies as the think tanks for the government. You might be seeing that there is a whole this conversation which is going on about the emergence of fifth estate, how multinational corporations have been working with the state governments, central governments, and with the different levels of policy making process, particularly in creation of the public policies. Also, we are also like seeing in the trend where the social science institutions, including many of the public universities, particularly their research have been weakened. When you look at how these researches have been conducted at particularly in social science institutions and universities, I think we are still are leveraging on traditional old practices of handling the data, analyzing the data, dissemination of those results and kind of thing. So this becomes very important. What kind of change theories like we will have, particularly in advocating for the required transformations which are required in the social sciences domain. That has been a great challenge. That's why I'm saying that issue formulation and that your negotiations with the power structures, maybe at the government level, maybe at the institutional level, becomes very important. And as researchers, what kind of tools, techniques you carry out. Because like you can't be acting as a single researcher, as an individual. The days are gone because you have to have more collaborations and you require to be acting in the network more actively than before, because that's what is the need of the hour. Like you should play a very proactive role being part of any research networks. As Dr. Shambabu was saying, that being working in Indian context, how do you connect to the researchers outside India and then make sure that like you are sharing the knowledge, collaborating the knowledge with those communities and then with those people also. I think the problem of social science research is that we want to simplify the policy problems and any social science problems which comes to us. We have this tendency to simplify it and then go to this deductivist, reductionist approaches, like where we want to have a best solution, like which is emerging out from any research output, that kind of thing. We want to have one solution for whatever problem we visualize. But I think the technology these days are helping us in magnifying the complexity of the problem. That's most important, I feel. How do you magnify the intensity of the problem? As Professor Jaffet sir rightly pointed out, the issue of COVID is not a medical one. It has a sociological, it has a political, it has a managerial implications. One has to like magnify the complexity of the problem, then only like we'll be able to approach those social sciences problem in the right direction. Where do you have the trust on the people or on the process? Because both are very important for us. So one of the incidences which I remember is when we conducted this research with the Devdasi community, where we submitted this legislation for the Karnataka state government on Devdasi resettlement, rehabilitation, and on the draft bill of 2018. I remember that most of these data were analyzed by the children of Devdasi community members. They came to National School of India University. They learned how to use SPSS package, and the way in which they coded the data, the way in which they discussed about the data is something which I felt was completely a process of humanizing. Because data is not just data for these marginalized communities, because it's a life story of an individual. It's a human side of the entire narrative is important. That's what I was trying to tell you, that where are these power structures and who are these people like, who get involved with this process is very important. If technologies has to be learned, it's not by the researchers. It has to be democratized in a way that it has to be used by those most marginalized groups also. I have greater admiration for Dr. Chandrasekhar because he takes up these responsibilities. He kept on saying me 4 years back that this entire data which is getting collected from the household survey of the Devdasi community will be analyzed by the Devdasi children who are not even graduates, like who are 10th standard, 12th standard, passed out students from the interior pockets of North Karnataka, most disadvantaged backward places. And when they came to nlsiu, I think the entire process was being designed in a way that people will learn SPSS, They will also learn some certain packages which is being given to them, so that they code the data, they enter the data, and they also will understand the problem which their community is facing by understanding this data. So one of the argument which most of you might have seen that why don't you hire a technician or a person like who knows it, outsource it, just outsource it, and your problem is being solved, kind of thing. I think the best use of the technology and its appreciation or its disadvantages will be understood only like when the people like who are experiencing the issues and problems handle those technologies. Let me revisit what Shambhabu sir was saying. That these are the two important letters which are written by Dr. Ambedkar, motivates a lot to me. One is the letter which he has written in 1953, that a strong advocacy for retaining of English at any cost, because at universities and in colleges, right? And I want to quote Shambhabu sir, like, who has written very extensively on the linkage between English language, its influence in the world market, and then also like how it helps in the empowerment of marginalized groups. And the views of Dr. Ambedkar saying that you have to retain English at any cost is a very important letter. I felt I should be able to show it to the scholars who are gathered here, because it's an occasion for us to recall the Ambedkar's ideas on the kind of research and the kind of universities he was visualizing at that point in time. Also, like, I want to highlight a letter which is also been written by Dr. Ambedkar again in the year 1955. This letter appears as a detailed note in Times of India, dated January 18, 1955. Dr. Ambedkar is basically proposing use of atomic power, particularly neutrons, for the flood control, which is happening, flood control in the river of Brahmaputra. How one should be able to control the flood by using the neutrons. Ambedkar, in his letter, all of you should get access to this letter, which is available online, and which is available also in Dr. Ambedkar's these volumes of literature which he has written. Why I am quoting this particular letter is Dr. Ambedkar is not a person like who is from nuclear physics, or at that point in time, nuclear physics was still flourishing. We never had those kind of discoveries. But Ambedkar is picking up the idea where he is trying to apply an important aspect of characteristics of neutron, so that the neutrons could be used in the controlling of the flood. So neutron will help us in evaporation of the water quickly, and then we can use this atomic power in controlling of the flood. I pick up this letter, and then I keep on reading this letter whenever I get time, because most of the terminologies which are used in that letter, I think, are very difficult to be understood, and it has been published in Times of India. Why I quote this letter is Ambedkar is basically using his sensitivities, his understanding, and then his imagination. These are the most important part whenever like you think about any technology which has to be used for human empowerment or human emancipation kind of process. There is an interesting metaphor Dr. Professor Rambhabu sir gave about blind men and an elephant. I think all of us should be able to see the elephant with the proper vision. Otherwise, this whole social science research have been now going in the hands of big corporations and multinational corporations. Where one of the scholars in Karnataka's Dalit intellectual history, Dr. Ramaya, says the entire usage of science and technology is going for keeping the crispiness of the multinational companies' chips and the products which are being manufactured. What for the science and technology, and for whom the science and technology is serving? It's a very important critique we have to understand. If the entire science and technology is being research is being is focusing on keeping the crispness of the multinational companies' chips, and then one has to visualize like where we are putting all the efforts and efforts. Let me unpack some of these critiques, and then let me also tell you that what are the advantages like when we are thinking about visualizing technologies in social science research particularly. So friends, I am not here to prescribe some of the tools on this particular day, because you will be getting introduced to different tools and techniques. I am just trying to give you a broad overview of how I am trying to visualize as a social science scholar, how I am trying to see this entire territory, which was little alien to me few years, few months back, because some things like policy analytics, data analytics, usage of data studios were alien to me a few months back. But now I'm also familiar myself learning these new tools and techniques, because I'm feeling that they're having greater influence on the humanities ever before. I want to also give an emphasis that we live in the era of societies of control, right? As most of you might have read about Deleuze's work on societies of control, how these particular technologies are going to govern us through codes and through chains, how they are going to govern us is an important era we are living. Because social science research, as Foucault would have visualized, as John Dewey would have visualized, as a disciplinary kind of domains, now we are going for more of a control of the minds through technologies. Technology will play an important role in controlling the human mind, and also it will give a impetus for us to imagine for newer kind of skills which are required, right? Let me ask you this question. What skills required for the future social science researcher? What I'll do is, let me use a Mentimeter, and all of you, I think, are having access to your mobile phones. Let me start with a small quiz. Maybe a quiz will take not more than 2 minutes. I would like you to respond to this particular quiz, which will come on your screen. All of you take out your mobile phones. For those of you who are using mobile phones, please take out your mobile phones so that I will switch on this survey so that you can respond to this survey. Bhaskar, this survey is visible to all of you?
It's visible, sir. It's visible.
Yes. What you should do is you go to menti.com in your mobile phones, and there is a particular code 42441999. That code you can enter when it is asking for the code, and then you can put the responses. Is technology the key driver of social science research? I think I want to start with that.
Sir, could you repeat the code once more, please?
42441999. It's visible on the screen also, Bhaskar.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very interesting. We started with no 50%. You can also see the results on the screen. Not sure 50%. I think only 2 people have responded, and their response is like maybe one person has responded it as. Now I think 3 people have responded. 67% of the. I think I should not be able to convert them into percentages till the time all of you have responded, because these are the small number of scholars who are responding to the quiz. I would encourage more and more people to respond to this. There's an interesting competition going on between yes and not sure, and that the area of no is coming down. That's very interesting trend. I was visualizing that all of you would say that yes as a response. That was what I was visualizing. But it's very interesting that people are taking different views. Okay, maybe like we will hit the number 10 and maybe like 10 participants responses, and then I'll go to the next question. I'll wait for 2 more responses. Eight, we have stagnated. So let me go for the next question, like which is more of a qualitative response, which I want from the participants. You can have multiple responses, in fact. What do you think is the role of technology in social science research? It's a more of a qualitative response you can have. What do you think is the role of technology in social science research? I'm not giving any option. I want participants to respond to it. It could be answer, you Google it out and then tell us, or it could be an answer because of your already existing knowledge, experiences, or even your imagination will help us in expanding the zone of the role of technology in social science research. Bhaskar, are you able to see the second question?
Yeah, so on the screen we are able to see. On menti.com it's still loading, I think.
It's loading, okay.
Yes. Sir, on chat, I think Sanjeev, Amrit, and Dr. Nisarga Priya has answered yes. I don't know to which question, but the answer yes.
Okay, maybe it's for the previous one, because that was the one which was having a closed-ended kind of response. So I think I responded to the previous one. Those who are not able to respond through menti.com, I think they have responded in the chat box. Fair enough. But let's go for this one, like which is seeking a qualitative response from the scholars. What do you think is the role of technology in social science research? You can type, I think, as many answers as possible. Like one individual can give as many as responses as possible.
Participants, the next question does not have any options, so you're free to.
It does not have any option. You have to type. There is a box which will come where you have to type the responses manually.
Sir, the menti.com is still loading. I don't know. We're not able to see the question on the menti.com. If you could.
Oh, okay. Let me share this. Even you can use the chat box if you are not able to get in the menti.com. You can use the chat box to respond to this so that I can collect them.
Sure. Okay. Yeah.
Sanjeev Kumar is saying it is very difficult to imagine social science research, particularly it is helping us to analyze qualitative data. I see technology as a tool to ease the process of human effort required for analysis and presentation. Easy access of information. It's one more response we have got. Great. I think if Menti is not responding, then you can go on typing in the chat box, which I can use it after I have done with the other slides, and then I can present like what information we have got. Basically, see, like if you see there is a trend when I look at most of the words which are coming, it is going towards data analysis. That's what is the word which is cropping up. To analyze the data, to visualize the data, I think we are going towards that, right? And See, that's where I think one has to understand the complete ecosystem and architecture of usage of technology in social science research, because it's beyond data. If it's just data, we will call it as data analytics, which is emerging as an important domain or discipline. If it is only data analytics, then I think me and you as social science researchers will not have much role to play in this entire process. It's much beyond just data analytics. It's much beyond just big data analysis. It's more than that. What we are seeing these days is an area which is emerging, which is coming as a synthesis of social sciences with humanities, with natural sciences, and then also like which is giving a lot of importance for the practitioners to get integrated into the technology sphere. What we are experiencing is very interesting. It's called policy analytics. Those of you who are interested can go through papers which are available on policy analytics and social science research, particularly how social science research is helping to develop this whole area of policy analytics, which is a derivative of your data analytics, your social science researches which are happening, and also like human interactions which are happening to you over different sources of data and different sources of information which are available. I think where we are heading towards is an interesting space where we are trying to visualize the human interactions through policy analytics. That's the most important area which we are entering. Let me also like revisit what do I mean by policy analytics, and then where do we stand in this entire space of policy analytics. I don't know how many of you have heard about this great scholar who was also contemporary of Dr. Ambedkar, Harold Laswell, who was called as the father of policy sciences. If you look at his biography, he is a very interesting philosopher, very interesting practitioner. Harold Laswell was a legal luminary in the sense like he has headed the department of legal studies in the University of Columbia. He has been a professor of communication. He is a professor of political philosophy. And finally, after working as, after wearing different hats and caveats, he says that I should be able to focus on human problems and problems of the public, which is most important in addressing the challenges which humanity is facing at this point in time. And he is the person like who proposes this new area called public policy or policy science as a domain. The inspiration for him is three important philosophers: Karl Marx, John Dewey, and Sigmund Freud. These are the three important scholars through which he wants to locate this entire domain of policy sciences. I kindly request you to go through the biography of Harold Laswell, why he enters into this whole domain of policy sciences when this entire world is going through this whole crisis of war, and the situation of war crisis was there. This is because he was feeling that most of the technologies and most of the social sciences which are there at that point in time, particularly sociology, political sciences, economics, they are not speaking to each other. There is no integration which is be able to come in order to solve the human problems or the problems of the public. So that's where like he is saying that he is proposing a new area of inquiry called policy sciences, where he is trying to integrate technology to solve the problem of the humankind, and also like he brings different social science domains to address those problems. Why I quoted Harold Laswell is all of us are undergoing those kind of crises at this point in time because we are into the transition. Because whatever we learned 2 years back are becoming redundant in the sense that the age-old way of collecting the data, and then coding of the data and preparing of the report are not useful these days. Most of the photocopy shops are getting closed. Most of the scanning machines are not having any work to do. Like if you go on the streets, I think there is an interesting transition which is happening on the streets. Most of the photocopying machines are outdated. Also, why I'm giving this particular example of Harold Laswell, Dr. Ambedkar, and then also want to give this example of one more scholar who is very important. I felt he's a wartime activist, particularly when America was waging a war against Vietnam. His name is nlsiu. He basically uses photocopy machine to leak out the data for secret classified documents of the US government. He leaks the data into the public domain, basically exposes the government at that point in time, and basically trying to inform the humanity that the great injustice has been done by the administrators, by the people like who should be taking the responsibility of taking care of the people, are spending the resources lavishly, particularly waging the war. Daniel Ellsberg becomes very important. Just using photocopy machine, he is able to show us a lot of information. I think most of you are familiar with these Watergate scandals which happened, and then where America was being able to amend its constitution, particularly First Amendment of the Constitution, like, which gave more freedom for the press at the point in time to give out the information in public, and that's a very important area which I felt one should be able to study. Why Daniel Ellsberg I am quoting at this point in time? He is the person like who invested a lot of energy and a lot of intellectuality, particularly in communication sciences, particularly how do you communicate messages to the policymakers. All of us are going through the crisis. How we should be able to communicate the messages to the policymakers? What kind of technologies we should be able to use? What kind of tools we are having in hand? I think we are blessed with technologies which are very proficient, very effective than what Harald Laswell, what Dr. Ambedkar, what Daniel Ellsberg had access at the point in time. We all have access to good amount of technology. But how do we use it? What way you should be using it? It's only possible like when you look at larger, broader ecosystem and the architecture of these technologies which are in usage at this point in time. Let me close the survey which I used. Maybe I will share the responses at the end of the presentation. Let me go to my original presentation. First, still that Mentimeter survey is being shown, right?
So as of now, we can see the question.
Okay. I'm just stopping there. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I think after I spoke about Harald Laswell and Daniel Ellsberg, I did not have to explain in detail about why I'm flashing these images. Particularly, you can see that any can volunteer why I'm using this particular slide at this point in time in the entire conversation of the technologies in social science. I'll just pause for a minute and then maybe people can volunteer and help me in elaborating why I'm using these images. Kathy O'Neill's latest book, Cambridge Analytica, and then Facebook, and there is something I think vaguely I can read about Pegasus. Anyone can volunteer, any scholars can volunteer and then help us. Can raise your hand and then I allow the scholars to respond. Bhaskar, any volunteers? I'm checking, sir, if somebody is trying to volunteer.
I think you're able to see this slide on weapons of math destruction, right?
Yeah, we can see the slide.
Yeah. We love to hear the voices of the participants, and then they can switch on their video, you can volunteer, you can raise your hands, and then give us a little more than what is being given in the chat box.
Yes, sir. Sir, I think Sanjeev Kumar has unmuted.
Yes,
Maybe.
please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Sir, I think it is I mean misuse of the data
Yes, please go ahead.
is the possibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought when I saw the Facebook that picture you showed.
Anyone had the access to this latest book?
No, sir. Sorry, first time we are looking at.
Okay. Anyone else, Bhaskar, like including you, want to try?
Sir, I'm hoping our participants would speak more.
Okay.
I just wanted them to also accustom to the next few sessions on talking on Zoom and all.
Right.
And even, sir, the last time what happened, I mean, they are, getting all the, I think which is related to WhatsApp, people are getting a lot of the private issues. I mean, the things into the public. I mean, they are extracting our. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, you are audible. Please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah.
Sanjeev, if you can switch on your video also, I think it will help us to identify you and then you can see it.
Okay.
Yes, sir, please go ahead.
And that's what recently, I mean, they have some, Facebook and WhatsApp are getting, our private, data or messages from the public, and they are interpreting or misuse. I mean, that's what privacy issue was there.
Yes.
They are not keeping our data, our data need to be kept confidential, but they are, they are utilizing our data and our messages.
Yes. I think the larger question Sanjeev Kumar sir is indicating is towards the ethics for which these technologies have been designed, right? And what are the ethical frameworks which help you to design such technologies? That's very important, right? And being social science researchers, these days we are seeing that. Yes. These days we are seeing that human identities have been converted into pockets of data and been sold, right? I could now hear that many of these data have been purchased by multinational companies, as Shambabu sir was saying, that having a because the Internet of Things, that most of your devices are being connected to a centralized processing unit where your data is being extracted every minute in selling of the products of these corporations and kind of thing. I think the ethics for which why you are collecting this data, where you are storing it, how you are storing it, I think you as a researcher will not have control. That's most important, and that's where, like I was trying to show you the larger implications whenever as a researchers, like we involved in any kind of research projects and kind of thing. What is the implications of this in the long run, right? I might join as a person like who is working from an Indian context to feed some data and information which I feel is important and which I feel is useful for the larger humanity. But if the same data, if the same data sets are being manipulated in order to steal the information, in order to manipulate them the way in which these bigger corporations want to sell this data. I think the ethical framework under which like you want to use these information and then use this particular system is very important. That's where I think the view of the environment is most important for us. Like you pick up any kind of research environment, there is a kind of government strategies, particularly in our Indian context. We have seen different national policies, particularly have been able to tell us what kind of social science research we should have. The new National Education Policy 2020 is a very bold document in a sense that it is trying to integrate most of the visions of how do you integrate social science research along with bringing the transformation in the educational front by integrating the information communication technologies and technologies in usage. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this policy which came in 2010, which was called as National Policy of ICTs in School Education. 2010 was the year when we had this National Policy of ICTs in School Education. That was the time we saw that most of the technology gains are people like who are commanding and then controlling the large multinational corporations who are interested in implementing this policy of national policies of ICTs in school education. Their social science researchers, our educationists, our teachers and students, they never had any role to play. In a sense, their role has been very minimalized. Minimalized in the sense they were being seen as only customers like who will access these technologies. I think that's where the 2010 policy of national policy in ICTs in education, ICTs in school education faced a lot of protests and then faced a lot of rejection, particularly from the academic fraternity. I kept on hearing from many educationists saying that was it a policy on ICT or was it a policy on marketing of the computers in the schools or is it a policy really in education? Because any policy which is being designed to cater to the needs of the educationists and social science researcher at that point in time, before like you went on to designing of the particular policy of ICTs in school education, you saw that the technology gains, Microsoft, Intel, and Indian MNCs were also were lobbying. Particularly, they wanted to market more and more personal computers in the school. That was their motive. That's the phase you saw that many of the philanthropies which were coming from these large multinational corporations were focusing on computer-aided learning in the schools. It was a very interesting situation when most of the schools and most of the colleges and most of the rural areas never had any electricity connection, and we were speaking about having more penetration to the technology to personal computers and selling of these Windows software to the schools and then the interior pockets of the rural education system. I think many sensible philanthropists, many sensible corporations, they withdraw this program after they realize the resistance from the academic fraternity and also from the teachers. Imagine a situation that your school is not having an electricity plug point, but your school will get a computer, you will have a computer learning aided program which will help your children to learn better computers and kind of thing. You go to any rural schools across India, you will see that defunct, completely dust-loaded personal computer will be kept in the office room or maybe in the staff room, which is not being used, where even the student never had a chance to touch those systems because no one knew like how to use them. Right? That was the phase. It's just a 10-year back kind of thing. We saw that entire uncovering of the policy. But later on, we realized that what is lacking in education system is that we require more basic things like infrastructure. We require teacher training programs and kind of thing. That all suggestions came and then emerged from the kind of rigorous research which happened when we started rolling out of education information system. I'm sure that many of you have heard about there is something called district information system on education. Now it is being transformed into UDIs kind of thing, where it started giving us information about lack of infrastructure, lack of teachers, lack of manpower, lack of learning achievements in the rural pockets. What I'm trying to tell you is that technology cannot take over the imagination and the sensitivity of the social science research or any educational field where it will have a sensitive intervention to make. What I'm trying to tell you is technology cannot overtake the aspirations, particularly of the masses, in the way that it has to be democratized. The participation of the people becomes more important. That's why I'm trying to tell you that any acts, any policies which should come into the place has to look at the broader policies, what kind of strategies government is having at this point in time. That's where this whole crisis which we are facing at the political front, particularly this whole case of Cambridge Analytica or Pegasus, that we don't have proper regulatory systems in place, particularly to manage what kind of data infrastructure we are having, how do we control those data infrastructure, how it has to be used by the social science research communities or in any larger research communities, like how do we use it? I think those ecosystems are missing in place. So that's why I'm trying to help you in understanding that participation of the peoples in any technological intervention, particularly in social science research, becomes most important whenever like you design for any kind of interventions. Let me, the next slide is also speaking about more or less the similar kind of imagination, where this political context becomes most important. What softwares you use, whether it's a proprietary software or it's paid software or free software, open software, I think political context becomes very important. And what kind of thinking you are having, what kind of evidence you bring onto the table or you disseminate to the community is most important. See, we all see that people lobby on certain softwares, certain softwares, and to be part of certain networks. Whenever like you are given a laptop or a computer, I think Windows come and then dominate you with your entire thinking process. Windows controls your imagination of what technology is. Whenever like visualize for statistical package for social sciences, it is SPSS which comes and dominates. That's where I think SPSS was started in which year? 1968, I guess. SPSS was way back, version one of maybe generation one of SPSS was way back in 1968 or 70s. I think we have 38 versions of SPSS. The way in which these collaborations have happened over the years, because of the profit it earns to those corporations and kind of. At this point in time, many of us like who are part of this entire conversation on technology and social sciences, I think we are a part of the very, I should say, insignificant portion in the entire global researchers, where we as a country, I think less than 5 or 6% of social science researchers are using technology effectively. Recently, there is this study and report by Sage India. It is available in Sage Ocean 2019. It is available. If you go to Sage Ocean, you will be able to find that the report is available, which is basically is giving an idea about what kind of difficulties, what kind of challenges you as social science researchers will face, and then what kind of solutions are available to you. It's a good review of around 448 softwares and tools which are available worldwide, and they have designed a questionnaire to ask what kind of softwares are used for what kind of purposes, and which are the countries which are manufacturing or disseminating these tools and technologies. Very interestingly, this survey comes up with the result saying that most often the people like who are leading the transformation is social science researchers. In the sense, as I give the example of 2010 National Policy of ICTs in School Education, which was completely dominated, which was controlled by the larger IT firms and then big multinational corporations. The recent trend is very interesting. That social science researchers, particularly the faculties in the humanities and faculties who are part of the social science departments, are the people like who are collaborating and trying to evolve these tools and techniques, particularly using open software mechanisms and open software technologies. That's a very interesting finding which this report is giving. I have borrowed few results and then borrowed few analysis from the particular report. This report is coming from SAGE handbook on social science research ecosystem. That's the handbook which I am deriving. Basically, like, it gives emphasis on why we are entering into a very complex zone from a very simplistic view of social science research. The problem of complexity becomes very important. The report acknowledges the fact that complexity is the most positive thing which humanity has seen. That you will be able to see the technological interactions and then the human processes through complex visions. It requires an intersectionality approach, like what kind of intersectionality you will have, right? That is most important. So the process becomes much and more complex because machine is trying to learn newer models of articulating and giving us the ideas about how it processes the natural language, how it recognizes the speech, and then how it converts it into one graph, and then what kind of network theories it uses. For example, like now you can comfortably use graph commons to design a network. If you want to have a network of, say, around 1,000 people are working on a particular project, is it possible for us to create that complex network, put that into a proper visualization format? Yes, on a fingertips, like it comes to you. But how do you make that your machine is also like learning sensitively along with you? In the sense, what kind of sensitivity your machine is also like trying to learn? In the sense, the artificial intelligence and machine learning languages which have been coded, what kind of sensitivity you are integrating into it? One of my friend and colleague, Dr. Padmini Remure, she works on this whole area of digital humanities. What they do is they use crawlers in terms of locating few phrases, few words which will define the individuals and communities. For example, on Google, if you go and then type Indian women, I think the portrayal which comes are very interesting. If all of you open your Google browser and just type Indian women, it will be very interesting to see like what kind of images which comes, like particularly when you go for the photos and pictures and kind of. It gives only upper and middle class women's photographs and pictures. Almost 80% of the rural and semi-urban and people like who are in the rural, living in the most difficult, marginalized situations are not being be able to show, because that's the way in which you have coded your crawlers and then you have designed your crawlers. That's why I'm trying to see that how sensitively you will design the spaces which are common. This is I will take you to analogy of tragedy of the commons, because most of these spaces are now used as common property resources, right? If you are using Google, I think that's a commons which all of you are coming together and trying to search for few information, few data. Nowadays, I think as faculty of social science, whenever like if I am finding it difficult to search for a particular definition or particular information I require, I think immediately like my mind says that let me Google it out and let me see like what information I have. Kind of. I think 10, 15 years back, I would have depended more on libraries to go and then collect this information maybe from the library, but now I am, I think, over dependent on Google to search information. So whenever we are loading or downloading the information, whenever like we are coding and uncoding any information, I think we should be very sensitive in terms of who we are trying to code through this process. At the end of the day, as I told you, that human identities have been converted into data points. One has to be very sensitive. What kind of language which is coming out after this whole codification process is very interesting. Let me come to maybe like these are the 2-3 slides I have. After that, I might request the participants and the other scholars present over here to maybe to respond and then to answer to some of the queries which all of us will have collectively. Particularly, what kind of challenges we as social science educators are people like who are teaching social science research in the university spaces, right? We face, right? So we don't have programming knowledge because that's the area like which we felt that it is the work of an IT professional or a software engineer should be able to take the responsibility of designing an appropriate programming knowledge. But can I get at least the grammar or the basic things which are required? Because understanding the grammar of programming language is most important. If you are not technologically proficient, fine. What is the grammar language is being used? Why I am using this phrase grammar is most of us know that historically, I just want to use this metaphor. Historically, some languages become extinct. Historically, some of the expressions which are there as part of our societal representation, particularly the languages, scriptures were coded, they started becoming extinct because of you did not democratize them properly, you did not make communities to access and then hold those knowledge with them. That's the status. For example, most of us like who are doing our PhDs in Sanskrit and then we are doing our masters in Sanskrit language, we will not be able to speak good Sanskrit. Why? Because we have programmed in such a way that we have excluded larger communities and masses of not understanding those particular knowledge system. I again want to go back of historical critique of Dr. Ambedkar about why you have been excluded of not using certain resources and certain codified languages which are very important for the progress of the humanity. His denial of usage of this particular language, I think that Ambedkar wanted to pursue a course in Sanskrit, but he was being denied, and then he finally ended up, I think, studying Persian in place of Sanskrit. And then he acknowledges throughout his research, if you see, he's acknowledging that most of these are coming through the translations like he's getting from the other sources and not being able to see from the primary sources. I also like, because I will take this opportunity over here, the way in which the people, particularly Dr. Ambedkar's PhD thesis or any of these empirical papers, if you look at, particularly I would urge you to look at his paper on the problem of small farmers in India, problem of small holdings in India. That's a very interesting paper because it has a lot of data, information, and everything about the type of land holding, a small farmer, large farmer, medium farmer, how much of land holding is having in particular locations, in particular regions. I now wonder if you would have access to SPSS or any of this SCADA, any of these Python or any of these software at that point in time, he would have communicated more better than what he was communicating at that point in time. It was an intellectually a brilliant empirical work of Dr. Ambedkar. But only thing is, now if you visualize the kind of technologies we are blessed with, and then how do we like integrate those technologies is an interesting challenge for us. That's where some of us also have these moral and ethical responsibilities of going back and then seeing that the work of some of these scholars, particularly Dr. Ambedkar, because most of his work have been washed out in the rains of Delhi when his literature has been thrown out on the streets of Delhi. One of the statisticians is estimating these days that around 17 to 80% of Ambedkar's writings are being remaining with us. The rest of 80% of his writings are not with us. What it indicates that we have failed drastically in curating those informations which are available to us historically, but we never had any sensitivities. Now I think it's an also occasion because every day when technology upgrades, it excludes the community, it excludes the people, because that's the great difficulty of usage of this technology. Because every day, like you start using, more and more people want to use it, it becomes a more and more important obstacle for the developers and then also for the software communities and then social science research to learn the new software. Believe me, if you have learned SPSS software somewhere between 10 years back, if you now want to use the same software and want to revisit it, I think you will struggle a little bit. Whatever mastery you have, if you once you change the system, I think you will struggle. How do you update your understanding? Also, most of us do not have knowledge of statistical packages, because what kind of statistical packages we will have, whether it's an open software or it's a proprietary one, like how do we share it amongst us and kind of thing. Finally, we all end up in mechanically, we are outsourcing most of this work. SPSS, now I know many of the scholars and many of us, like we outsource it. And then whatever data which comes to us on a coded Excel sheet as the final result, that's what like we use it, right? And that's where this fourth point, what I'm trying to tell you is tools and software change and develop very quickly. Because every year, 25% of the technology which we are using gets outdated, and then we have to like adapt to the new ecosystem of technology which is coming to us, right? And one of the greatest challenges for us is to access and usage of the online resources for teaching. What kind of access? To give an example, I use this Menti just for 2 slides. I can use it. After that, it will ask that pay for if you want to use unlimited access, pay so much. And then I limit my quiz saying that only 2 questions are sufficient. If I'm using Google Data Studio, 15 days it will give a trial run, and then after that it will ask for a certain amount. Most of us like who used Gmail maybe 7-8 years back, and now I think Google is asking us to pay, renew your Google data package, otherwise Google package, otherwise you will not be able to use it, and you are stuck there because you are being compelled to pay that. I think that's the most important strategy of the software companies and then multinational companies, particularly in ICT business, that they use certain mechanisms and then they use certain kind of structures in penetrating their products. In 2010, as I was telling you, they were using a national framework of ICTs in school education as a policy to penetrate the computers into the public systems. They basically are trying to sell and then increase the market trajectory by 25% if government is being supporting them, kind of. That you give a test and then trial versions afterwards, like you make them to get adapted, and then you end up paying huge sums. Why I'm cautioning all of us over here are, we are all situated in a very isolated kind of pockets. We don't know whether the pandemic will end after 3 months or it will continue for some more time. So how useful to use the online resources for any of these teaching which is related to research, how effective we are using in those resources, like one should be very, very careful. And many of our universities, particularly we have having printed textbooks, printed materials which are there in the library. But all of us are now in our homes, and then we are having access to the knowledge and the information only through this digital mode. We don't know whether these all the information will be given to us through digital mode, whether our libraries will become digital so that I access any book which is required to me for any research purpose and kind of thing. I think that's the greatest challenge we as a social science faculties are facing at this point in time. How do I access the textbooks, teaching materials? How do I become a partner in developing of any software package? The importance of statistical package. Next, the challenges faced by the researchers. We don't get an opportunity in our Indian context to collaborate with the right skilled and right knowledgeable people. I think most of us get excluded because you are not part of those networks. You are not part of those social networks and then social capitals which you need to adopt to. I think this workshop will help us in connecting to those networks which are very difficult to reach, or maybe like which are not accessible all these years for community of researchers. We'll put some importance in terms of getting access with the right collaborations and then with the right knowledge people and kind of thing. And believe me, whatever technology like you use and then whatever technology you make a transition, it requires a lot of time for learning that new field. If you are using Python, if you are using R, if you are going to use R, or if you want to use the SPSS package, it takes time. You have to invest your time in learning that entire process. Nowadays, I think most of us are also trying to learn the software on our own, any analytical tool on our own. But sometimes we see a success in it, or else after investing maybe 3-4 days, I realize that I am not heading towards desired results even after seeing lot of these YouTube videos which are uploaded or the tutorials which have been given. If I'm not successful in that entire endeavor, I tend to disconnect myself with those technologies like which will come handy to me. I think we have also seen a generation of social scientists, social science scholars who never thought of even using a personal computer. Many of our professors, many of our teachers are completely have denied that they will be using the computer because they had their own imagination of the technology. They had their own inhibitions, through which I think they also got motivated that as social science scholars and researchers, we will live with this whole fancy idea of reading big philosophies and then okay, these all the things could be done and then outsourced with the help of other people like who are part of maybe statistics. Most of the data analysis will go to friends in statistics department. I think now we have to come out of that mindset. It's a radical transformation which is required at this point in time. If you really like want to make good use of the technology, learn the software and analytical tools by using your own skill sets because the pandemic is compelling you to think into the direction. There is an interesting paper. If you are interested, I kindly request you to look at this paper by Everyday Self in Everyday Life. Sorry, Self in Everyday Life. I'll also be able to give this paper to Dr. Chandrasekhar after the end of the workshop. It's called Self in Everyday Life by this scholar called William Stephenson. Basically, William Stephenson is a scholar of English. Then he transforms into a statistician. Then he becomes a nuclear physicist and kind of thing, theoretical physicist. And he is giving the theory of apparent subjectivity, where he is bringing his own experience of life. For example, like when he was a scholar of literature, he was thinking through the language and the literature as the medium to articulate his idea of the society. When he becomes a statistician, he is trying to understand the society through numbers and those projections which are coming to him through numbers. And then when he is going into this terrain of theoretical physics, and when he is entering into this area of physics, he's trying to imagine through his experiences through those scientific knowledges which are available. And he is writing this paper, he is keeping his own experiences of experiencing these different domains of English literature, statistics, and then as a theoretical physicist, like he is writing this paper called Self in Everyday Life. That's a very interesting paper where he is evolving a methodology called Q sorts, where he is trying to club together and then trying to come out with an analysis of what he would have felt about himself. Because if I ask any of you that what you feel about yourself, you might give 15 to 10, 20 disclaimer about yourself. And then how do you make sure that you will identify those important validity points for identifying your own self-identity? How do you make sure that it becomes more sensible in its analysis and kind of thing? William Stephenson is giving us a framework where these disclaimers and qualitative opinions could also be analyzed in a very systematic way and then could be presented in order to go for proper choices whenever like you are going through a process where you are trying to select a few disclaimers and kind of. If I ask you that what do you feel about corona situation in the country, all 30 of you or 40 of you gather over here, you will have your own narration. How do I make sure that I will derive the useful linkages of what you have said? I think that's where the technology comes into place in assembling this information. And what Shamba Bhusar was saying, that why do you need to flip through 1,000 documents when you are having access to Zotero, where it can help you to locate few keywords and then help you to do meta-analysis in arriving at. So learning of the software packages and analyticals through by one's own method is most important. And fourth point is the biggest challenge is we are coming up across with the explosion of big data. But we are not really using big data in social science research. It is corporations which are having access to the big data and they are manipulating the big data. But how do we use it in our social science research? I think that's the challenge we are having. How do we use it? How do you use it is a big challenge for us in terms of how do you make usage of those big data in what format and for what purposes and kind of thing. And one of the pointers which this SAGE report is giving us is only 10% of the people who are developing these softwares, who are using these softwares are women. That's a very interesting finding. Only 10% of the people involved are women. In the sense, whatever softwares you have, whether it's a new version of SPSS or a new version of Google Studio, only 10% of the people will come and collaborate. I'm giving the examples from the larger corporation. Maybe when I'm speaking about SPSS, I'm commenting on IBM and its diversity of the people in those corporations. Even when it comes to development of the software packages, maybe at the university level, like you use Excel and manipulate and then create your own simulation packages, that the involvement of the women is less than 10%, maybe like it goes maximum to 10%. So you are excluding that large sensitivity which was required. That's why I was trying to tell you that how do you make sure that people participate in the process of developing of the technology? Fine, technology is only about creation of the Aadhaar cards or whatever, but how do you make sure that like people will participate in those processes from scratch? Then only like we'll be able to democratize those technology. I think I'm pro, and then I'm more towards involving of more and more people with the diversity. That's what I was trying to tell you, that you have to have this lens of intersectionality where you try to use more and more markers of identification is most important. Poor citation practices of the software itself, because there are more than 500 softwares which are available online, which are available in different package format. People are using these citations very poorly, that you don't know how to cite them. There is no standard practice which is emerging of citation of these software packages which are available. Don't confuse me for the apps which are getting developed through Android or through your iPhone. I'm not speaking about those software technologies over here, but the softwares, like how do you cite them, which version of software you are using, those citation practices are. And then the difficulty in navigating the ecosystem. We as researchers, since we don't have much network and connections in the sense about the larger social science networks, are leave aside usage of the technology. Most often, like we don't also like even approach quality journals in publishing our research. This is because of we have been limited in usage of the networks which are available to us. The last point is about the sustainability and how do you make these softwares and programs more open source kind of thing. Because after some time the technology becomes redundant, how do you make sure that the particular technology continues, and after 10 years also you learn? I think lifelong learning approach is required. If you are learning Zotero in 2021, you should have a plan that you should be using this Zotero with proper update and then proper kind of guidance. You should be able to use it after lack of peer review tools. That most of these softwares which get developed, or most of the packages which gets developed, you don't have proper mechanisms to review them. With that, I think I'll come to end of my presentation. Maybe like we can spend some time in Q&A if any Q&A question and answers are there. As I said, the digital humanities is the key driver, that you have to be able to identify the people and the communities and the different kind of markers you require in terms of identification of the people. That's where I said that the digital humanities is the key. I give the example of how Google is trying to portray the picture of Indian women, and how do you make sure that your women folk from rural areas or interior pockets of India are also be represented when you search for Indian women under the Google search and kind of thing. And most of these packages these days, most of the technologies are coming out from the social scientists and faculties of humanities, which are welcome step, because at least for most of the software packages, you will see that you will have the role of a social scientist or faculties of the humanities. A professor of sociology will play an important role in designing of a software for health sociology or maybe epidemiology and kind of thing. And you can see in this particular review that from 1984 to 2019, the kind of tools which have been coming and then how much of them are proprietary tools and then how much of them are being given in open source software and kind of thing. Last but not least, I should have been, many of you wrote to me saying that they want to spend more time on the characteristics of some of the tools, but I took on the departure from that entire thing and I spent some time in putting the broader portrayal of how does it look like when you enter into this entire area of technologies in social science. I just went in the depth and the width of this particular area. Because in these another 6 days time, Chandrasekhar and other friends who are part of the entire designing of this workshop, they will take you through particular softwares and then they will introduce you to those softwares. Few characteristics of these tools are, like as I asked you in the beginning, that for what purpose do you need technologies for social science? People will say that we need it for surveying and sourcing of the participants. You started with online surveys. I think 2000 was the year when you had this survey monkey as an online survey mechanism which was coming, and now it has been occupied by social media and the latest version of survey monkey. If you look at the kind of collaborations it had, if you look at the trajectory from 2000 to 2021, I think an interesting trajectory survey monkey has taken up. This is an example which I am giving, that you need tools for annotation, labeling, and coding of the text. You have NVO, RTSTI, CKUDAS, and those kind of tools are also available with you. And believe me, some of them are open source softwares which you can download easily and start using them, kind of thing. Tools for social media research, I think there is a greater overlap between social science research and social media research. Be very careful. That's where I'll end up with the caution by Harald Lasser that whether you will be involved in the propaganda making of the state or propaganda making of any of these multinational corporations, or you really want to represent the communities for which this social science research matters a lot. Whether you are participating from the northeastern part of India, whether you are participating from southern part of India, just remember like who you want to represent and then why you want to represent. That's where it becomes very important. There is a great degree of confusion between the research which happens, quick research which happens over the social media by using the data which are available. And one should be very careful that you should not be part of the larger propagandas which have been created by the social media houses. You should be able to sensitively select those information and data which is useful for you and which is useful for those communities to which you think you want to represent. I just conclude. We exactly have 30 minutes left. I will now open the floor if any comments, suggestions, clarifications are there, so that we can spend some time, and if required, I can revisit some of the things which are required maybe at the end after I hear some comments and suggestions. Bhaskar?
Yes, sir. Sir, Dr. Mohan is asking if they can get.
Yes, I think Dr. Chandrasekhar, what he will do, what he is planning is that he will create a repository of all these presentations and then resources which I have stated in my presentation. He'll create a repository and then send it. Maybe like Dr. Chandrasekhar will create a drive and circulate, or maybe he will send it through an email.
Sure. Thank you.
I know that it was a long talking from my end because I just wanted to integrate our own experience of what happened with us in Tala and then wanted to see whether we get integrated into this larger question of technology and social science research. If so, what are the challenges we might come across? That's a broader overview I had. I'd be very happy to take any questions, any clarifications, any comments, or any disclaimers or claims which people want to make and they want to help me to further this entire space.
Participants, if you are unable to speak, feel free to post your questions and comments on the chat box. And the feedback form is already posted on the chat box. Please fill it. It will not take more than a minute. Please fill it with awareness. And your suggestions and feedbacks are very important. So please write your thoughts on it, and any suggestions on how to go about it, or any questions you want to ask, please use the feedback form as well.
Please speak up, otherwise this technology becomes very one-sided. I feel that I just spoke and then maybe you people either have completely understood it, or maybe it completely went out of your entire. Any because it's an opening day, because I'm not teaching any tool that you require any immediate clarification, but I think with a larger perspective, if you have any questions to ask or any clarification, we'll be happy to take. Otherwise, I'll be happy to spend a few more minutes in maybe concluding. I'll wait for a minute. Maybe let's take a break.
So Vikas and chat is asking, they're from Kannada medium, so if the speakers can use Kannada from the upcoming sessions.
We will organize another workshop in Kannada medium only, then we will address this question. We are more interested with the Kannada medium students.
Yeah.
We'll organize next session, another workshop webinar. We'll speak.
I think Vikas' point is very valid, that we use Kannada, but I think what we can do is, because it was planned for a pan-Indian kind of audience and including audience from other parts of the country, what we can do is, as Dr. Chandrasekhar has told, that we can plan for one more session in Kannada itself, exclusively in Kannada. I think it's possible. With the kind of tools and techniques we have, I think it's possible for us to organize.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes, Anand, please.
So, will it be possible for you to, probably throw some light on the aspect of how technology can enhance the qualitative aspect of research? While most of us have, in some way or the other, been exposed to the quantitative use in a large scale, in probably developing tools and also in the analysis process. But many times qualitative aspects have been an area of, learning. So it'll be nice if you can probably throw some light on how it is in the technology space.
Yes.
Thank you.
Anand, thank you for this question. I'll go for a very recent technology update which is happening, and through qualitative methods. All of us know that storytelling is a very important traditions in qualitative methods, that we scholars, particularly working in social work, we use case work, group work, community organization as important methods and tools for social work practice. I feel that storytelling is a great tool, both in our folk traditions and also like in the policy spaces, particularly social sciences. Storytelling has been a very important. Why I'm giving this example of storytelling is, most of these animations which are being created, particularly to influence your behaviors, are being carved out through such techniques of by simply using a particular storyline and then create an important story so that like, you get influenced with that. Why I'm giving this example is that you can use different patterns of visualizing that the qualitative data, qualitative information. It is simple color for me. Chandru is wearing blue color, I am wearing red color. for some of you, like, it might give an important qualitative insight of why I'm wearing red today. It might have, because colors have its own interpretations and imaginations to give. There is an important work, particularly in management sciences, which was having a very important implication also for taking decisions. If I portray red, it gives an important implications. If you code it in red color, it gives an important implications. If you code it in green, it gives an important implication. What I'm trying to tell you is, whenever you have technology, it actually complicates and it actually gives the complex imagination of the data itself. All these years, we are all like fascinated with this coding of the textual data, either by using Atlas TI or nlsiu we would have used. We could have given a pattern under which these particular documents have been giving us a particular information or kind of thing. That again used a logic which was very quantitative in its articulation. For example, many of us, the qualitative researchers, are fascinated with this idea called how many times this particular word got repeated in a particular policy document or in a particular document, and then how it has been connected or how it has been connected to a particular code to another information kind of thing. But I think now we are living in an era where each of these information and insight coming to you through digital platform or through technological platform has its own meaning. So apart from numbers, number is just a proxy. It's just a proxy. Number is just a proxy to tell a particular event or phenomenon. If I want to, that's where like I always rely on Dr. Ambedkar to make my logic very clear. Ambedkar says that information such as it's a simple equation. 1 by 4 is not equal to 2 by 8. That's what he says. When he was speaking about relationship between minorities and majority communities, particularly communal majority and communal minority, he says 1 by 4 is not equal to 2 by 8. Quantitatively, for a quantitative analyst, it is very simple, saying that what a simple commonsensical mathematics Ambedkar is denying, because all of us, like, for 1 by 4 is always equal to 2 by 4. That's what like maths has been told to us. But Ambedkar is trying to give connotation of these 2 means the majority community, and then 4 means the minority community, 1 means minority community, and then 4 means majority community. And then when you put these kind of connotations and give more meaning and feathers to those numbers, then only it matters for us. I think mixed designs and designs which gets evolved through collaborative practices. That's where I think the transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary research have become very important. How do we like smell, taste of a particular number which has been given to you? If somebody is saying 33% of women reservation is required, qualitatively, like, how do you want to analyze it? By going through different legislative and parliamentary documents. What is this 33% means to you in parliamentary and legislative discourses? What I'm trying to tell you is, you have to be extremely imaginative in choice of the menu which you order for your own research. Don't go by this mainstream thinking that nlsiu artist is the only limited kind of software for textual coding of the qualitative data information. The world has opened up, and I think problems should become the focus of your research than becoming the slaves for the tools. That's where I'm giving this submission. Be imaginative whenever like you are having, whether qualitative or quantitative. Both the spaces, I think you need to be imaginative in usage of it. It's like this. Either you can travel and decide to drive a fast journey on a highway, or you will have your own excursion by climbing the mountain and then discovering newer facets of your research. I think intellectually you will be more satisfied when you innovate. I think if you are at a PhD or postgraduate level, innovate the kind of methodology you want to use. I think those things are available already for us, whether it's textual or it's visual or data clippings. Video ethnography is becoming very popular these days. And many of the scholars in the Western universities are completing their PhDs based on video ethnographies. And there is a recent paper I think you can refer in. I can circulate that, where researchers is basically using Zoom platform in doing cultural studies of interactions among the health professionals in American context, and they feel that Zoom is a more effective and an empowering tool than collecting the information manually through surveys and household visits. I don't know, Anand, I answered your question in a very straightforward, direct manner. But I think that's what I felt that is required. That I just expand the zone a little bit and then we'll make sure that I respond to that.
Sure. Thank you for the response, sir. Thanks a lot.
So we end, Pradeep sir.
Sir,
Ask.
I have one more question, sir.
Ask.
So, Dr. Pradeep sir. Sir, I have two questions. One, the heavy use of technology may hijack humanizing humanizing the data analysis or the research. That's what I feel. Since I am very basic in this research. And a second is there any such technology where the qualitative research can be analyzed? No, sir.
Sanjeev Kumar, can you come back again, because I missed first part of your question.
The heavy use of technology, sir, in the research may hijack humanizing the things, while data analyzing. As you in the beginning only you told me that while doing Devadasi studies, you have called people to your institution somewhere. I heard like that. Heavy use of technology may hijack, this humanizing in the research and data analysis.
See, for most of us, research is for some of us research become profession. For some of us, research is a way of life, and some of us research is a mandate as part of institutions and universities. But for most of these marginalized communities, the research is an emancipation tool for them. The inherent feeling or inherent what you call buy-in will not be there from the community. It's very difficult, like when you really want to go and then work with the Devadasi community for their own research and kind of thing. Just to convince them that you want to conduct research in collaboration with those communities will take some time. I don't know in what context you are saying that one is hijacking the community's information and data. But in this entire pursuit, what most of us have done is like we have kept those communities on the outside of the research purview itself. That's where I think I am deeply fascinated by the introduction of Ambedkar to this text called Who Are Shudras, where Dr. Ambedkar is struggling to prove that he is a researcher who can do historical research. Please take out this particular piece from Dr. Ambedkar's Who Are Shudras preface from his book. He is basically trying to tell that he is a researcher who is also capable of doing historical research. But historically, what has happened, if you have not studied history, if you have not studied calligraphy, and if you have not studied epigraphy, those so many these sub-disciplines, historiography, and formally, if you have not acquired those certificates in the university spaces, you have not been qualified to call as yourself as a historical researcher. So most of the time, Ambedkar's treatment of the subject and then his choice of subject was history, because who are Shudras when he's picking up, he has to construct the identity of historically marginalized communities. He's picking up those communities. But in this entire process, he is in the greatest stress to prove himself as a researcher, like who's comfortable in handling historical subject. I think most of us will also have the same kind of stress, because, for example, up till now, I have not used technology in any of my research. But that should not be an excuse for me to not approach research through a technological lens. Right? That should not be an excuse. That's what I'm trying to tell. How do you qualify it? Either through formal training, either through your association with the peers and kind of thing. And I think your entry saying that you want to research some of these communities and some of the groups through technological means itself is a great leverage point for all of us, like who really want to enter into the space. That's where I give the example of Dr. Ambedkar. Finally, like he is convincing himself that I am also capable of doing historical research. Though the scholars at that point in time completely rejected his thesis on Who Are Shudras, saying that he is not a historical researcher because he is not qualified in the historical studies and kind of thing. But Ambedkar takes up the challenge. He says that My purpose is to create a political and historical image for the excluded groups and communities. I think as universities, as researchers, we all have the responsibility to create those identities. Because still, the question which has been asked by Dr. Ambedkar, the question of unseeable, the question of unapproachables, the question of untouchables have not been addressed in the policy spaces. So still we have not identified, with given all this technology, given all these tools and techniques, have you identified unseeables? Who are the unseeables from the policy spaces? Who are the unapproachable communities and kind of? I think that's a larger challenge we are having. How do you mold the technology so to cater to the needs of these communities is very important. With respect to hijacking of this particular domain or discipline for emancipatory research of the communities, that's left to you, like how do you want to hijack? Whether you just want to publish a paper and then detach yourself from the community, or you want to associate it with that entire policy ecosystem which they place as researcher.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Pradeep sir, shall we end?
Whatever you feel, otherwise I think another 10 minutes are there. If any questions, clarifications are there, we can take apart, and else I'll leave it to the organizers to decide.
If any questions and clarifications or suggestions,
because this question, I feel that we should give time for scholars to think also, because in many of the webinars, what we do is like we, as the resource person speak and at the runtime we just finish. I think I find that it is not useful. In most of my classes also, the same thing is happening. That I don't know whether my scholars are participating because they are interested in this entire program or for certificate, because we should not compete those historical blunders that we participate in the webinars and seminars because they give a certificate. And I think Chandru is also noting now who is participating, who is not participating, and he is a little strict headmaster who has not issued the certificates for the people who do not participate. I think with that disclaimer, let me wait if any more questions, clarifications.
Sir, we are all participating and exposing ourselves to our limitations.
So I think Dr. Sanjeev Kumar and Anand, I think some of you have already responded. I think that's what Chandrasekhar is making note, I said. Okay, if we can wait, maybe I can switch off my video and then wait for 2-3 minutes, Dr. Chandrasekhar, and then maybe after that, by 1:25, I'll log out if no questions are there. Will that be fine?
No, there is no time limit, so we can. There is no clarifications, questions. We should end the session.
No, I was thinking that they might require some more time. In any case, I think I'll end and we'll wait.
If you have any clarifications, questions, or suggestions,
So I think we can close them. Maybe they can use the feedback form to share their thoughts and feedback or any questions or suggestions.
Great. Okay, Bhaskar, thank you then. Bye-bye. Take care.
okay, sir.
Thank you.
Special thanks to Pradeep sir. He is earlier my colleague and he is my guide and visionary. What Tala Samudayagala Adhyayana Kendra now doing. Pradeep sir is the pillar of that center. He left last 3 months back. His support and guidance, we are doing these things. But today, first day, we are closing now. We are special thanks to Pradeep Pramod sirs. We are noticed that 2 days back, sir, this is the session. He told I will address the session. And then all the participants, we have some requests. Every day, you must in Zoom, 9:45, sorry, 10:45, 11 o'clock sharp starts sessions. And another one suggestion is the schedule is shared in the WhatsApp groups. Please follow the schedule. Tomorrow we need SPSS software. If you have anybody, you can install the hands-free. The process is practically they tried. Fancy D'Souza is the resource person, is very good resource person. That's why we request, please prepare, be prepared. More questions, more interactive. Otherwise, these online trainings, we are lost resources, we lost time, never come back. Whenever your time comes, you can learn the process. Thanks one and all. We closing this today's session. Pradeep sir, our privilege. Once again, thank you very much for your guidance and support.
Thank you, sir. I think there is one participant, Sushilama. Somebody has raised a hand. If anything is there, you can take others. Yeah, thank you. Maybe she has a clarification to you, seems.
Please ask.
ಸುಶೀಲಮ್ಮ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಹ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ರೈಸ್ ತೋರಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಏನಾದರೂ ಪ್ರಶ್ನೆ ಇದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ಕೇಳಿ.
Gangadharappa sir, there is any information or clarifications? Gangadharappa sir. Gangadharappa sir.
Sir, it's okay, fine.
We'll close it now.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you one and all for great success for the first day session. Please be time tomorrow. Thank you one and all. Bhaskar, special thanks for your support.
Pleasure is mine, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you,
sir. Thank you very much.